Hello, and welcome to Sobercast, where we provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in podcast format. We're an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into our virtual basket. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Have a great day.
Hey guys, I'm Nick. I'm an alcoholic. I'm from Amherst, Mass. And my home group is a Springfield speaker group. We got the same format as you guys, I'm pretty sure. And just got it going. Maybe I've never had to have a microphone lifted up for me before. Nice. That was cool. They're always going down, you know. Here comes the short kid. But yeah, just got it going a little while ago. People have been coming from all over the place to speak for us, and I really appreciate it, you know. So any opportunity I get to return the favor, I jump at it. We were just over at the Axe Recovery over in Newark, Delaware. That was pretty cool. Heard a couple people that were awesome. Those things really opened up my eyes in the beginning. You know, I got to see people from all over the place, different states, doing the same thing, getting the same results, all bright-eyed and happy, you know. Yeah, okay. So I grew up in Amherst, Mass. That's where I'm from. Well, I'm from Belchertown. It's right next to Amherst. And, you know, I don't have a sob story about my upbringing for you guys. You know, I think the alcoholism started somewhere inside me. I don't think it started in my life. I had two parents that loved me dearly, you know, and did absolutely everything they could for me as parents, you know. Because of the way I was on the inside, I ran my mom ragged. You know, I exhausted her. And you know, I see today why, you know, because right from a young age, you know, I had an emptiness on the inside. There was something missing. You know, I was really into hockey. I was really into like downhill biking and skateboarding and stuff like that. And you know, I would get into these things. I'd play hockey. I'd join the team. I started playing hockey and I was on the C team. You know, it only took me like a year and I was on the best team I could be on. You know, I was getting offers for different schools, different teams. You know, when I got into something, I was obsessive about it and I got good at it. You know, and my parents were right there with me, supporting me with the rides and with the equipment and the support, you know. I remember my mom cooking me dinner at 8 o'clock at night, several nights, you know. I remember my mom waking up early in the morning on Sunday, you know, after she had worked all week, and on Saturday after she had worked all week to bring me to hockey, you know. And she was right there. You know, but what would happen is that, I'd find one of these things like hockey, you know, and I'd become really, really obsessive with it because it would make me feel just a little bit better. You know, when I got out on that ice and I was skating around and I was playing with a team and I scored the goal, you know, for a few brief moments after I scored that goal, I felt all right. I felt relief. You know, I felt like part of the team. You know, maybe it really wasn't that I felt like part of the team. You know, maybe it was that I felt better, so then I felt okay. You know, I felt recognized. If I was skating around the rink with a flag in my hand, you know, I figured you guys thought I was okay. You know, and so I got a little bit of relief from that. And I'd get obsessive about this stuff. But what would happen is that that would only last a little while. You know, that would only last a little while. By the time I made it back into the locker room or on the next shift, you know, I'd go sit on the bench after I scored the goal, or I'd go sit on the bench after I knocked the big guy on his butt, you know. And just sitting on that bench watching the other guys play that are on my team, I would get back into my head, you know, and I would start to think again what you guys are thinking about me. You know, if my girlfriend in the stands is watching somebody else or something stupid, you know, or if the ref's out to get me or if my coach is out to get me, you know, and I'd become restless, I'd become irritable, I'd become discontent, and I'd feel a little bit empty in between plays, you know, and so nothing stuck. You know, so basically between the time I was, you know, old enough to ask for stuff and the time that I had to move out of my parents' house because they felt unsafe with me there, my mom ran right next to me trying to make me feel better. You know, anything I could dream of, you know. And, I mean, that's something that's just beautiful to me. I work a 12-step program. I have a sponsor. I sponsor guys. I go to meetings on a nightly basis, and I still cannot wrap my mind around the unconditional love of my mother. You know, it's just something that's just bigger than me. You know, but that was one of the things that I look at. And, you know, so by the time I'm 18 years old, like I said, I can't live in my parents' house. And this isn't because, guys, I'm like a dangerous guy. You know what I mean? I'm not like a bad guy. I don't want to fight. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to scare people. But what happens is that people that love me don't want me to do the things that I'm doing to myself. And what I'm doing to myself is I'm screwing up hockey. Because drinking's more important. I'm screwing up school. I was never any good at it. There wasn't much there to screw up. But I'm hurting school even more so because of my drinking. I'm hurting, I'm getting in trouble with the law because of my drinking. I'm sleeping till 3 p.m. because of my drinking. And so like any caring mother, my mom wants to stop that. What would happen is that without even thinking about it, my stepfather, this guy, he offered to be my dad when I was like 6 years old. He offered to adopt me. And, by the time I'm drinking regularly, he would tell me, Nick, you can't go out. Without even thinking about this, without even thinking about the fact, that they support me. They make it possible for me to play hockey. They make it possible for me to do this and that. And everything that I do in my life, they make it possible at this point. Without even thinking about that. I'd rip doors off the hinges. I'd pick up chairs. I'd throw them. And this is just what happens to me when someone tells me, no, Nick, you can't go out and drink. Because sitting in my room at 16 years old, when I know there's people out there drinking, having fun, is torture to me. Absolute torture to me, And I'm completely convinced that my parents are too overprotective. I'm completely convinced that I'm missing out. Whatever it is, I'm just restless, irritable, I'm discontent. I'm jumping out of my skin at 16 years old in my bedroom, dying for some way to get out. And, and so I just did that stuff, and so at a young age, I was unable to live with my parents anymore. So I went and lived with my father. My father's like this hippie guy, he lives way out in the middle of the woods. He drives like an old Ford T-Bird Turbo, and he drives fast, and he smokes pot, and he's, listens to loud rock and roll music, and he's pretty convinced that my mom's too overprotective too, so he tells me I can go live with him, and I think it's on. I think it's on. I'm free. I'm gonna be okay. This is gonna be awesome. I go live with my dad. I get a job at a skateboarding shop. Sweet. I got everyone convinced I'm homeschooled. I'm walking. I got an apartment at like 16 years old. My dad lives over here in the woods, and he's got his name on this apartment in downtown Amherst for me at 16 years old. And I'm convinced I got it. I got you all fooled. And I'm walking to work, and I'm drinking out of a Gatorade bottle on the way to work at 16, 17 years old. And I think it's fun. I cannot wait to get to work to like share this with the guys I'm working with that I'm already drinking, and and they thought it was funny, they thought it was funny, but really quickly what happened, guys, was that like, even this really free lifestyle for a 16 or 17-year-old, I don't have to go to school, I don't have to do anything I don't want to. Even that really free lifestyle, I can't even stay in the bounds of that. I can't. Because what happens to me, guys, is that no matter what, I'm telling you, I don't have enough time to list all the different circumstances that I've been through, and I'm young. I don't have the time to list all the different circumstances that I've been through. I don't have the time to list all the different people that have been closely in my life. I don't have time to list all the different places I've lived. But what I can tell you is that every single set of circumstances that I put in my life trying to make myself okay fell short. And after a short period of time, I was restless, I was irritable, I was discontent, and I felt like there was something missing. And I was absolutely convinced that it was because of these circumstances in my life that I was not okay. No matter what happened. I lived in Louisiana for a while with an aunt. Same thing. The aunt was willing to go out and drink with me. The boss knew I was going out drinking. He thought it was funny. He was willing to put up with me being a little hungover in the morning. Again, like, perfect. You know what I mean? I exceeded those limits, again and again and again. And, so finally I'm back home, and I'm completely trespassed from my family's house at this point, and I've lived with my father, and I've lived with my stepdad. Nobody wants me anymore. nobody wants me. And so I'm bouncing from couch to couch to couch, and at this point I'm the guy borrowing your socks, and actually I'm borrowing my buddy's shoes tonight. That's pretty funny. But at this point I'm the guy borrowing your socks, I'm sneaking out after your parents go to work. I'm sleeping in your closet or in your basement so your parents don't know I'm there because I've completely overstayed my welcome, and I'm just looking for any opportunity that I can to get drunk, to have a place to stay, to feel like I'm part of, I look back at the things that I did in that time, and there was all sorts of rules that I had, like rules with friends. Oh, I'll never do this, I'll never do that, I crossed them all. And, so I was trespassed from my house, I couldn't go to my dad's, I couldn't go to my mom's. Finally I ended up, doing like I got put in the shelter, and that was the last place that I was, last institution that I was. And in the last year where I was actually able to go to institutions, I was in the mental hospital like 3 times. I tried the uppers, the downers, the inners, the outers, the Wellbutrin, the not so Wellbutrin, all that stuff didn't work. And tried detox, went in and out of those. And then finally I'm in a shelter, and my mom tells me that if I can just get sober, she'll let me come home and I can work for the family business. I'll tell you guys right now, nothing. I didn't want anything at that current moment more than I just wanted to get sober so that I could go home. Most of the time I want a lot of stuff. I need the girlfriend, I need the car, I need the job, I need you to stop calling me this, I need you to start calling me that, At this current moment, all I wanted was to stop getting drunk and high so I could go home with my parents. And about a week after I was at that shelter, that picture in my head that I had pictured, me being sober and going home to live with my parents, didn't happen soon enough, and I didn't have the option. I did not have the option. I needed relief, and I needed it then, I needed it now. And I had to go out, and I had to get drunk, and I had to get high. I don't get mad at my friends today, the ones that have not yet found a solution, are not yet living with a higher power in their life, because I know it have to, have to. I had to. I did not have an option, and even today, I still don't have any more power today than I did back then. Today, if it goes too long before I tap into this higher power, before I use these 12 steps to stay connected to something greater than myself, the first thing I do is not pick up a drink, but right away, I'm powerless over the way I feel inside. That empty feeling starts to come back. I don't want to feel like that. I never wake up in the morning and decide that today's an okay day to be restless, irritable, and discontent, I'm still just as powerless over that. And as soon as I have that restless, irritable, and discontent feeling, I am almost as powerful over, that drink that I was that day as I am over my character defects today. If I let that go too long, next thing you know, I'm trying to convince you I'm right. Next thing I know, I'm chasing money, property, and prestige, and it just happens just that quickly. Just that easily. And today the only thing that I think is different is that, I've had a spiritual experience. I've had an experience that, instead of when I was at that point, instead of going and getting relief from a drink or a drug, I found relief in actions, in the 12 steps, guided by some people that had already done those actions. And what I got was relief. I had an experience with a spiritual connection, and that gave me relief, and today when I start to feel that restless irritability, I can pursue that connection and stay on track. But back then I did not have that, and I didn't have that option. And after a week in this shelter, I was back out and I was running for the next year. And for the next year I had no option. I woke up in the morning and the first thing that came into my mind was, how am I going to get what I need to be okay? How am I going to get what I need to make the noise in my head stop? I had 2 other people running with me. My other thought was, how am I going to get what they need so that I can keep them with me? Because they had talked about detox. They had talked about going home to their parents and asking for help. you know, and I was well aware of the fact that if I couldn't keep it in them too, that I might be doing this alone, you know, and I couldn't stand to think about doing it alone. I tell you guys, I went through some crazy stuff in that time. I put myself through some crazy stuff during that time, you know, tell you about it in the parking lot, you know. But the last night, you know, it wasn't too crazy. You know, the circumstances of the last night were not too crazy, you know, but it ended up me running away from police officers in a station wagon through cornfields. And I got away, you know, and I had to wrestle with a manager of a store that night, and I ran around in the swamp trying to get away and got back into the car and made it back to my hotel room, you know, and that was not the stuff that scared me. That stuff was okay. I was willing to pay those prices, you know, to do what I was doing. What scared me is when I got back to that hotel room that night, I didn't have anything in me. I was sober. You know, for the first time in a year, I was in that hotel room sober. And I was in the bathroom, you know, I had gotten completely muddy from head to toe. I was unable to carry anything with me, so the clothes on my back were all that I had. So I'm standing in that hotel room with no clothes, getting sick in the sink, staring in the mirror, solely because I was getting sick in the sink and I couldn't lean over to the toilet. And I was absolutely terrified to be the guy that I was. I was absolutely terrified to continue living the way I was living. And the scariest part about it was that I didn't know a way out. You know, I did not know a way out. At this point, I admitted to myself that that was my only option with the tools and the resources that I had. And, you know, guys, I wouldn't have told you that this night or the next day, but I honestly believe that that's when the grace of God entered my life. You know, and I don't think that that was the first time the grace of God had entered my life. I don't think that was the first time that the door opened or that I was nudged in that direction, or however you want to look at it. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. You know, but I do look at that day, and I you know, that's what I looked at when people started talking to me about God in these rooms. I looked at that experience, because the next morning, after I got that desperation, that moment of desperation, the next morning, my mom woke up out of nowhere. I hadn't talked to my mother in 8 months. She went down to the courthouse. She sectioned me, which means when I am picked up by police, I'm going to be looked at like a sick individual. I'm going to get sent to detox rather than getting sent to jail. And that very next night, the car that I had been driving state to state through cornfields, you know, away from cops, broke down on the side of the road, and there was a state police officer following right behind me. And the state police barracks was about 2 miles away. You know, I was taken in. I had warrants because I was on probation and stuff like that when this run started. So I was taken in with enough means to be held, and I was held for 3 days. And I got to tell you guys about what happened when I got there, because I think it's funny, but I think about it a lot. I don't know. You guys don't? No. But I got to jail, and there's these guys sitting around the table, and one of them had a tattoo on his back about this big, and it was a skull. And if any of you guys have that, I'm not saying anything bad about the giant skull on the back. It was just intimidating. But I ran right up next to him, and I sat down next to him, and I was like, hey, do you play spades? Because I play spades. I learned how to play spades in juvenile hall, and if you play spades, I want to be your partner, you know? Just out of my mind. No. Out of my mind. You know, my next question was like, you know, do you know how to make mofungos? Because I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten in a month, and I heard mofungos are awesome. You know, and he looked over at me. Good, you know, it was really nice that he was a nice guy, and he just looked over at me, and he was like, kid, you are way too happy to be here. You know? I don't remember what I said, but the thoughts in my head probably weren't, yeah, I am. You know, but I look back in hindsight, guys, and, you know, that was probably the safest that I had felt. That was probably the easiest that I had breathed, you know, in a long time. Because I was not in control. You know? I was not in control. I was safest at that point when I was not in control. That's who I am. That's why I'm here tonight. You know, because if I'm in control, my life is in danger. And, you know, so I made it through that jail. I think I stayed there for a couple days. I had met a guy in a courtroom. You know, another one of those times where something outside of myself, you know, like my mom that morning waking up and going down to the courthouse, you know, something out there worked. I was in this courthouse over in Holyoke, and I had, I've been there many a times, but this time I was there to get a charge for a charge. And I was going that day to get a guilty finding. And I had an opportunity 3 or 4 times before that to go in and get this charge dropped. Just completely dropped. Again, when I got this charge, you guys don't know what Holyoke is, but Holyoke is a Latin King run neighborhood. I was on a Latin King run street, which is like a prison gang. And I was standing there with hair about down to here in a Quicksilver shirt with strawberry milk and ripped blue jeans. And this cop pulled up to me and asked me what I was doing in the neighborhood. And I'm pretty sure I asked him what he was doing in the neighborhood. And so they searched me. And so I'm in there trying to face this charge, and sitting in that courtroom, I had 3 or 4 opportunities to go in there and get this charge dropped. But at that time in my life, I couldn't take 3 hours out of my morning to go into court to get this charge completely dropped. Because 3 hours out of my morning meant that I had to be in my head for 3 hours, sitting in that courthouse with the security guard over here, the judge up front, and my mom sitting next to me because I couldn't get myself there. And I was unable to give up 3 hours of my life where I had to be separated from a drink and a drug to go get this charge dropped. Somehow I made it in that day with my mom, and I was feeling like a jerk, because today I'm getting a guilty charge. That means I'm losing my license for a year. That means I got it on my record. Now when I fill out the application, I gotta write yes, because I couldn't show up to court. And what happened that day was there was a kid about my age before me, and he was going up in front of the judge. The judge told him, listen, kid, you can't pass your drug test. We've given you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. You can't do it. We're going to have to send you to jail. I knew exactly what was going on there, And this guy got up there with him, and you guys met him. Dave Perry was just down here a little while ago. I met Dave Perry in a courtroom in Holyoke, down by me, an hour and a half west of where he lives. And he just opened his mouth, and I don't think he mentioned AA. I don't know what he said. I don't know. But something that he said gave me a little bit of hope. He was talking about this group of sober people in Boston, and that he was going to take this kid standing next to him with him back to Boston. This kid that grew up one town over from where I did, had the same exact drug problem, was around the same age, and couldn't stop either. He was saying he was going to take this kid with him back to Boston, and the kid was going to be able to stay sober. Somehow I got hope. Just like when I was a little kid and I could picture myself, being the star of the hockey team, and I thought once I was the star of the hockey team, I'd be okay. For some reason that day in that courtroom, I got the hope that maybe if I was back in Boston, sober with this guy, I'd be okay. And I wasn't quite ready. So I got his business card. And when I was in detox at the end here, I called my mom, and she still had his business card. And I called him up, and he was like, yeah, no problem, love to have you down. He remembered me, he remembered my mom, and so detox is over. The day that I'm leaving, I go down to the parking lot because I'm getting picked up to be brought back to Boston, and the kid that was in court that day, that couldn't pass the drug test, that was the same age as me, that grew up one town over from me, was still sober, and he was there with his mom's car, took time out of his day to come pick me up, 2 or 3 hours away from where he was living. And he had gained some weight, he looked good, and he was sober. And I got some hope from that. That was the first time the 12th step had touched my life. I saw him, just take time out of his day to come help me. It was kind of a funny ride home because I didn't know whether to sing the rap music on the radio or act like I didn't know the words to the rap music on the radio. I didn't know whether to wear my hat backwards or forwards. To say the least, guys, I was really uncomfortable to be me, sober. Because I was out in the real world. I wasn't in jail. I wasn't in detox. I wasn't confined. And I was sober. And it was the most awkward I had felt in a long time. And so finally I get back to this sober house after a really long ride, and there I am, and I'm happy to be there, guys. I moved into a place with 130 people trying to get sober, into a city where there was meetings all the time. I could take buses to meetings, I could take taxis to meetings, and I was so happy. I was so excited to be sober. I had all these great plans. I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to get this. I'm going to date her. I'm going to wear that. I'm going to work here. I had, so many hopes and dreams. And what happened was that, really quickly I got that restless and irritable and discontent feeling that I got, over and over as a kid that caused me to be able to do nothing but sit in hotel rooms and use. And, I'd come to these meetings and I'd sit in the back of the room and I'd look up at the person speaking and I'd, hear them talk about how great their life is. And I was absolutely convinced that it had to be something in their life. Somebody, something, some job, something to do with their bank account. If it was a guy my age speaking, I was looking around the room to see where the prettiest girl was because I was convinced he was dating her. When I went outside to smoke a cigarette, I was looking around the parking lot for the sports car because I was convinced he had it, Because that's the only stuff that so far in my life I've experienced any kind of relief from besides drugs and alcohol. That was it. I didn't know that anything else existed. I didn't know that there was a solution that starts in here. The only experience that I had had with my life changing or me feeling any different was the changing of the stuff in my life. And so I figured that's what you guys were doing. And it almost killed me. It almost killed me. 3 months sober, I was a complete wreck. I was restless, irritable, I was discontent. I was living almost like I was living out in the streets, but sober, in a sober house in the rooms of AA. I was not the guy that I wanted to be. I was working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I was dating 3 different girls. I was participating in illegal stuff to try to get more money. And this isn't stuff that's always been easy for me to talk about because I'm ashamed of it. My mom was helping me pay for that sober house that I was living at. And I was still working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day because I was convinced that if I had enough money, I'd be alright. So I would lie to my mom and tell her I didn't have any money. Sober. And, guys, I was unhappy to be me again. I was looking in that mirror, scared to be me, scared to continue living the way I was living, and I was sober. Somebody sat me down and they opened up my eyes. For the first time, someone explained to me, that an alcoholic is more than just someone that has a problem with a drink. Because here I am, I'm 3 months sober. I've been separated from the drink and the drugs for 3 months, and my life is still a problem. My life is still a problem. So the problem's somewhere in here, somewhere in here. For some reason, I feel so discontent that the second I'm awake in the morning, the second I get out of bed in the morning, I start thinking about how to feel okay. How do I make myself feel all right? What do I got to do? What do I need to make Nick okay? I had 2 roommates in this sober house. They wanted to move out of my room because I had so much dirty laundry around my bed. And I tell you guys, I didn't do laundry because I couldn't take the time to gather my clothes together, bring them downstairs, and wash them. Because I was that busy trying to make me okay. I didn't have the time to do laundry, so I just buy more clothes. I was that nuts. And, and it's funny to laugh at, but I know what it's like to be in that spot in my head. I can barely carry on a conversation with people when I'm, that consumed with myself. And nothing's good. Nothing's fun. I can get everything I want and I'm still restless, irritable, and discontent. I'm still empty. I still feel like I want more. And then I come to these meetings and I sit in the back of the room and I see people in the front of the room that are happy and I'm just wondering why. Because at this point I have a little bit of stuff, I remember a night really distinctly. I was at this meeting in Dorchester and his kid had celebrated a year sober. And I saw him and his buddies leave the meeting and I saw them slapping fives and giving each other hugs and walking across the meeting and I'm like, what the hell do those guys have? That I don't. Because I was dying on the inside. I was sitting in the back of the room with my hood on, with my hat down, looking at my shoes, And, somebody sat me down and they talked to me about that. They told me that, the way they look at it, they got a hole in their soul, a spiritual disconnect from God and from their fellows. And I'm not really, I don't have any conception of God at this point. I don't know. I don't know what that is. But what this person started to talk about was that empty feeling. and that restless and that irritable and that discontent feeling. And then they told me that I was self-seeking, and I told them that I didn't think I was, And they started to point out that, when I wake up in the morning, I immediately start to take actions to try to make myself feel okay. And then throughout the entire day, I continue to do that. They started asking me, like, Nick, what have you done for, another alcoholic today? And the answer is nothing, The answer is nothing. Even, I read that passage in the Big Book. It talks about, us as an actor trying to be a director. That was like me. That was me in plain English written in a book. I connected with that because I'm running around all day trying to arrange things in my life sober to feel okay. Things aren't getting arranged and I'm getting upset. And what I experienced, guys, was when I reached that point and somebody opened up to me and they opened up this idea to me, I had a lot of answers. There was a lot of stuff going on that I thought needed to be changed, for me to be okay. And my experience is that coming to that person with all those things that needed to be changed, that I don't know if 2 of them got changed, but everything inside of me did. Somebody told me a spiritual experience is that moment where everything feels different, but nothing has changed. And that's what happened in my life, guys. That's what happened. I got presented with the 12 steps. I got presented with a spiritual way of life. I remember asking people, is this spiritual? You know what I mean? I don't know, And, so what I started doing was I just started spending time with these people that were living this lifestyle. And I'd sit down and I'd do step work, I'd get up, I wouldn't remember a thing we talked about. I'd read the Big Book, I'd stand up, I wouldn't remember a thing I read. But what I consistently did was I got in the car with people that were practicing the 12 steps. I got in the car with people that were living a solution. And I tried to help them carry this message. I tried to help them with whatever they were doing. I went on trips like this, and I held the map, I did whatever I could. I remember not saying no, to anything in AA because I was so desperate. Because I had connected with, what you guys were sharing me with that hope. And what I got was results. Before I could tell you what the 12 steps were, before I could tell you where to find step 3 in the Big Book, before I could tell you what a spiritual experience was, I was having one. Because I got in that car and I started to take those actions. I started to think of another alcoholic before I thought of myself. I started to do a searching and fearless moral inventory on a daily basis. When I would come to, my sponsor and I'd have a problem and they'd ask me, well, what were you trying to make happen? And I'd tell the truth. I started doing that stuff before I knew what it was and I started to get the results before I knew what they were too. And then my sponsor told me that this stuff is based on spiritual principles and when I was a kid, before I knew what gravity was, if I rolled off the bed, I was still going to hit the floor, And, and at that point, before I knew what everything was, I was still getting the results. And what happened was I liked these results so much that I did the 12 steps. I met with a sponsor regularly. I read some of the Big Book. I did a written inventory. I did it as the best as I could. And I still to this day do the best that I can. And what has happened is that today I've got this perception of the 12 steps and this experience with the 12 steps, and I go out and I try to carry that to other people. I've got a friend that grew up in DSS, and he grew up without his parents in his life, and all he knows is the street life. That's all he knows, and today I go to visit him in jail and he looks at me in the eyes and he tells me, Nick, this is just who I am. This is just who I am. I'm just a liar, a cheat, and a thief. And I can look him back in the eyes and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's not who he is. And know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if he's willing to take some action similar to the ones that I've taken, that he'll get the results and he'll get to live a free life too. That's my experience, guys. This is my experience. On a daily basis, I can live free from alcoholism by taking the actions that my sponsor showed me. On a daily basis, I can help others to live free of alcoholism by sharing those actions with them. And it works. You know, it works. It works for me in my life. I look back at where I was. You know, I was robbing stores to get deadly substances to give to my friends to keep them with me 3 years ago. You know, and today, my life is full. You know, my family's back in my life. I have tons of friends. You know, I got a house that I got 3 extra bedrooms. People live with me off and on. You know, so we got like this big family thing going on. I got friends that come over and stay over. I can come out here and I know people. I can go to Boston and I know people. I was just over in Baltimore and I was spending time with friends. You know, not people that, you know, to go get drunk with. I was spending time with friends. You know, and I didn't know this stuff existed. You know, so when people were up in the front of the room when I first got to AA and they were talking about, you know, how great it is to have their family back, I had not experienced that love. I had not experienced that connection with my mother at that point. Today I have. When I was sitting in the back of the room in the beginning, I hadn't, so I didn't really connect with that. You know, so if I can share anything with you guys, you know, it's the fact that for 3 years, not only have I been happy when I've been practicing this stuff, but a drink and a drug isn't a problem. I'm not fighting the good fight. Here's the thing, guys. If I don't maintain my spiritual condition, I become restless, irritable, and I become discontent. I become empty. At that point, I don't have control over my actions. But if I consistently take spiritual actions, you know, if I consistently practice the 12 steps, if I help others, if I try to carry a message, I consistently feel full on the inside. You know, and that stuff isn't a problem. And the coolest part is that these actions that I get to take, you know, carrying a message, it's become the coolest part of my life. It's become the funnest thing I do. You know, I love it. I love it. I'm 22 years old, guys. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I've always wanted to be the coolest kid in school. You know what I mean? I've always wanted to be that guy. You know, and today I run around in AA rooms. And I love my life. I'm living a life not by my own design, you know, but definitely one that I'm okay living in. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.